Rivals are a pretty mixed bag in Pokemon, especially this past decade with all the friendly friend rivals. But even so, they at least fulfill their gameplay purpose, giving the player an indicator of where their own skill level should be. And today we're going over one fact about every rival. These facts range from what I found the most interesting, the most unknown, or something I just think is kinda funny. So let's get on to it. We of course start with the one and only Kanto Rivals. Blue is of course known for being the first rival, but do you know just how many appearances he's had? You likely know about his appearances in Kanto, Johto, Unova, and Alola, but apparently he's also appeared in Kalos. While it isn't possible for the player themselves to run into Blue, if you talk to a woman in Lumio City's Magenta Plaza Pokemon Center, she'll mention how Professor Oak's grandson, aka Blue, came over to Kalos to study abroad, where he said his iconic catchphrase, "Smell you later." And for a bonus fact, Blue has canonically lost to more protagonists than any other rival, losing to the Kanto, Johto, Unova sequels, and Alola protagonists. Trace? I think we already went over the most interesting fact about him. He's the only rival whose team is based on the version you buy, at least when you exclude remakes and rematch teams. That's interesting, right? Now for the underappreciated Johto Rival. The one rival character who appears in the Johto games. Now we all know about how Giovanni is Silver's dad, and the theory that Ariana could be his mom. Either way, it does seem like being a criminal runs in the family, and I'm not just talking about how Silver stole his starter. In Pokemon Gold, Silver, and Crystal, Silver is one of the trainers who has under-leveled evolutions. In his Azalea Town battle, if the player chose Cyndaquil as their starter, Silver will have a level 16 Croconaw. However, Totodile shouldn't evolve until level 18. Then later in his Burn Tower battle, he'll have a level 20 Haunter. But Ghastly isn't supposed to evolve until level 25. Makes you wonder if his mommy let him in on tricks to force evolution. The remakes fixed this by having his starter at level 18 in Azalea Town and having Ghastly unevolved in the Burn Tower. Now for the 7.8 out of 10 Hoenn Rivals. Brendan is a bit of a misogynist. In Gen 3, Brendan mentions assuming that the player would be a boy, since he heard that they were the child of a gym leader. In Pokemon Emerald, if the player chose Torchic as their starter, then May will have a Torkoal in her Rustboro City battle. However, after this battle, she swaps out Torkoal for Slugma, which is what Brennan will always have in this rival battle. In Gen 3, there's two odd things that could happen with Wally catching Rolts. For one, his Rolts could actually be shiny with the usual shiny odds. His Rolts won't remain shiny for his future battles though. Another thing that could happen is Wally could actually knock out the Rolts. The Zigzagoon and Rolts need specific IVs and natures for this to happen, but even if it does happen, the game will progress as normal. Now for my turf, the Sinnoh Rival. In the Sinnoh games, you're given something called a Pokétch, an item that allows you to do things like friendship checking. We're explicitly told that the Pokétch only comes in two colors, blue for boys and pink for girls. Barry, however, has an orange Pokétch, which admittedly does go with his design's color scheme better, but it has caused people to question how or why he has an orange Pokétch. Maybe he was given a special one because his dad is Palmer, or as we'll touch on later, mayhaps there's another reason. Now for the fabulous Unova Rivals. Bianca is probably the rival who cares the most about her Pokemon. When she's at her strongest, all of her Pokemon know Return, the move powered by the user's friendship with their trainer. And while I don't have evidence, I'd imagine they have max friendship. And in Black 2 and White 2, Bianca is the one to check your team's friendship. Bianca may or may not also be Barry, but more on that after the credits if you wanna hear it. After beating Charon in Black and White, he will leave in the direction the player needs wants to go next. And for reference, Bianca will go back to where the player came from. End's Pokemon can be caught in Black 2 and White 2 with the Memory Link, making this the only time you can catch the exact Pokemon your rival had. And yeah, I count N as a rival. At the very least, he's a rival in beliefs. To this day, Hugh's little sister doesn't have a name. Despite getting her stolen Purloin back being his main motivation, she doesn't go by anything other than Hugh's sister. Now for the underrated Kalos Rivals. Can you even call most of these guys rivals? Calum and Serena will both have a Meowstic on their rival teams, but Calum will have a male Meowstic while Serena's is a female Meowstic. Serena is potentially bisexual. Whether the player is a boy or a girl, Shauna will show romantic interest, which can be mostly seen in the fireworks scene in X and Y. And as a reminder, you get the Protect TM after this cutscene. Wonder what Game Freak is trying to say here. Tierno likes to dance and Trevor likes the Pokédex. That's literally all I could think of. Again, can you even call these guys rivals? Just be thankful I didn't make the fact that Tierno and Trevor are their names, in case you forgot. Now for the Tropical Alola Rivals. Hao is known for being another friendly rival to the player, but if Hao chose Poplio as his starter, then there's actually a chance he'll betray the player during a double battle. When the two of you team up to invade the Aether Foundation, there's a 1 in 3 chance Hao will target the player for Primarina's Z move. This is due to Primarina's Hydro Vortex being based on Sparkling Aria. Sparkling Aria normally hits both opponents and your ally in double battles. So from an oversight with Hao choosing a random target for Hydro Vortex, and his ally being a potential target thanks to Sparkling Aria, he can actually end up attacking the player's Pokemon in this team-up. After Gladion escaped the Aether Foundation with type Null, he took up residence in the roadside motel on Akala Island's Route 9, and apparently when he first arrived he paid for a 2-year stay, and is apparently the reason it's hard to get a room in the roadside motel. Now for the sporty Galar Rivals. From Hop's league card we learned some interesting stuff, like how his partner Wooloo would help him with chores around the house, or how his battle style revolves around letting his Pokemon do their own thing. Marnie was very timid and a bit of a crybaby as a kid, but she would get happier when playing with the Pokemon Piers gave her. In particular, Marnie's Morpeko was given to her by Piers when she was 5. Bede is one of 4 rivals to specialize in a type, but he's the only one who changes his type specialty, going from a psychic specialist to a fairy specialist. This happened because former gym leader Opal took him under her wing, and under her mentorship, Bede mellowed out, and now actually signs autographs from fans. Clara's league card has a very particular edit. The Slowbro behind her looks like they were warped around in Photoshop, and you'll notice that Slowbro's spot on the card is close to Clara's chest. Avery comes from a line of psychic-type gym leaders with psychic powers, but because his psychic powers are weaker, he's labeled a disappointment. This may explain Avery's admiration of Slowpoke, since they do things at their own pace regardless of what others think. Now for the shiny new Paldea Rivals. In Nemona's house, there's a painting that seems to portray Ash Greninja, which is strange since Ash Greninja hasn't been available since Gen 7. On top of that, Battle Bond was even nerfed in Scarlet and Violet. Carmine's team in the teal mask shows a bit of her character arc. Starting in her second battle, she'll have an over-leveled Swadloon, but by the time you get to her final battle where she's warmed up to you, her Swadloon would have evolved into Leavanny, a friendship evolution. Kieran has special dialogue if you bring Ogerpon to his champion battle, getting angry at you for bringing Ogerpon, as if this kid's brain wasn't broken enough. His AI is even said to target Ogerpon more often if you do bring her. Carmine, on the other hand, will just be happy to see Ogerpon. Okay, so originally I wasn't gonna talk about Arven and Penny, since personally I don't count them as rivals all that much, but since some people do, I can quickly go over them as well. Arvin's team is based on either Pokemon who eat a lot, or Pokemon who are themselves based on cooking ingredients. Penny may be lesbian based on her comment about the player's mom. I mean, even if she isn't, she would still be right about the Gen 9 mom. And there you have it, folks. One fact about every Pokemon rival. I hope you learned at least one new thing about these great characters. And hey, I finally talked about the Sword and Shield DLC rivals. I realized that I forgot to talk about them in my gym leader facts video, but no one else seemed to mention that, so I guess I'm not the only one. I mean, they're technically minor league gym leaders, so I guess it's fine. But yeah, let me know if you want to see another facts video. The only category I could think of left is evil team leaders and admins. But is there another category I could do? Let me know in the comments below. Have a nice day, you wonderful people. Is Bianca the trans identity of Barry? I know it sounds crazy, but there's a lot more to this than you'd expect. Bianca and Barry both wear orange and white clothing with green accessories. And looking at Barry, we see something odd with his Pokétch. The Pokétch supposedly only comes in blue for boys and pink for girls. Yet Barry's Pokétch is orange, maybe signifying that their gender is fluid. Finally, the timeline supports Barry realizing they're trans and moving to Unova. Black and White takes place about 3 years after the Sinnoh games. And Barry is 11 in the Sinnoh games while Bianca is 14 in Black and White. So Barry and Bianca are the same person, right? Well, as fun as this theory is, there's also a lot of holes. For one, Bianca has green eyes while Barry has orange eyes. Which you know, maybe Bianca's wearing contacts, you don't know. However, Bianca being a novice trainer wouldn't add up if this is all true. By the end of the Sinnoh games, Barry was a champion level trainer. Meanwhile, Bianca struggled to get her Pokeball out of her bag. On top of that, they have completely different parents. Barry's dad is Palmer and Bianca's dad is definitely not Palmer. So while I think this theory could be a fun headcanon, it just doesn't work out to be actual canon.